You're listening to episode 130 of Present Moment. Welcome to Present Moment, Mindfulness, Practice, and Science. I'm Ted Meissner. Present Moment is a podcast with interviews, conversations, and roundtable discussions. We speak with mindfulness teachers about their newest findings published in peer-reviewed science journals, teachers about their understanding and methods as they work with students of mindfulness, authors about their books and interests, and we also speak with everyday practitioners. The website presentmomentmindfulness.com has show notes for each episode along with resource materials. Gisele Bourgoin joins us to speak about how mindfulness is helping middle school students. If you're listening to this podcast and find value and insights from what is shared here, know that this is made possible from your generosity and the generosity of others like you. I want to thank those of you who are making monthly donations to keep this podcast going. And if you're not, please take a moment, go to presentmomentmindfulness.com and click on Make a Donation. One-time or especially monthly donations show you value this work, which can't happen without you. Thank you for your help, your support, and your kind generosity. Remember being a kid around 7th and 8th grade? What was that time like for you? It may have been carefree and filled with joy, or maybe it was challenging, or perhaps even difficult and sometimes overwhelming with all the changes in your life. Those stressors, however much we may look back on them now, are still stressors, perhaps the biggest experienced in life to that point. And today there's a new influence of greater distraction. How students meet that is being helped nowadays by the dedicated efforts of teachers helping their students with mindfulness. Gisele Bourgoin is a public health nurse working in the school health promotion program. She's currently offering mindfulness sessions to middle school students in the classroom. Our guest today is Gisele Bourgoin. Gisele, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So I want to dive right in and have you tell us about your background as a nurse and with mindfulness, because that's really pertinent to what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay. Well, I've been a registered nurse for 28 years now. Started my career in hospital nursing in labor and delivery. From there, I moved to public health, where I worked in different capacities, but the bulk of my work was working with families with children. Worked on the family team, doing home visits, prenatal classes, breastfeeding counseling. I worked on a breastfeeding research study for a bit and did a little bit of a stint in school health before leaving the health unit to work part-time when my children were little. I worked then at a community health center, where again, the bulk of my work was working with families and children. I ran an early years program there, did a little bit of clinical work there. And when I felt that the time was right to come back to full-time work, my job happened to be available in public health. So I came back to my old job in school health promotion. And I've been doing that for 12 years now, working with 4 of our local school boards from grades JK all the way up to grade 12, a little bit of post-secondary. And the bulk of our work there, traditionally public health has been looking at topics such as, sexual health, prevention of substance misuse, tobacco, healthy eating. And we were doing that kind of work. And we were doing a lot of youth engagement work when I first started on the team. And what we were noticing was that mental health was really a concern for students. So we tried to see how can we embed mental health into our current public health programming, because mental health wasn't officially part of our mandate at that time.
Hmm.
So we did do some of that work over several years, developed some mental health resources, stress workshops, coping strategies. But we felt like there was something that was, a little bit missing. We wanted to go a step further. So I'd say probably about 5 or 6 years ago now, I came into mindfulness on a personal level. There was a lot going on in my life. I'd been doing some yoga, and there was family issues, health issues. So I decided to attend a yoga and mindfulness retreat with my daughter, and that was really an eye opener for me. It was kind of like that missing piece for myself personally. So I started doing more reading, attending online summits about mindfulness, and just really incorporating that practice into my own daily life. And about the same time, two of the colleagues that I work with closely, Natalie Thistle and Francine Pinard, were doing their own exploring. Natalie was taking the MBSR program here at Sudbury, and my colleague Francine was doing a meditation. And, we were sharing our learnings. We were trying to see, would this fit with the school programming that we do? So at that point, we decided to write a proposal to our agency to see if we could have, maybe a little bit more formal training in terms of how could we bring this to the schools and could be certified as mindfulness teachers in order to bring it to the students. So that's kind of how we got started.
Great. Thank you for that. And I'm sure there's several people listening to that who have found that story resonates with them, that there's stuff going on in my life. And I found out a little bit more about this practice, and that shifted things. That was a bit eye-opening. So thank you for sharing about that. And what I'd like to do is talk about the program that we're here really to talk about and unpack a bit. So I'm wondering if you could say what that program is and how it got started.
Okay. Well, back in 2015, 2016, we did write that proposal for our agency. We were a little bit, concerned, is it going to be accepted, endorsed, because mental health wasn't officially in our mandate at that time, but we kind of had a feeling that it was coming. So we were fortunate to have the support. We did our training through Mindful Schools. We took the Mindfulness Fundamentals course, Mindfulness Educator course. My colleagues took the year-long certification. I had to be away from work at that point for an injury. So again, I did some things on my own. Came back. We had support to run it as a pilot program. So we did that for 2 school years with 18 groups of students. We were lucky to work with a health promoter on our team, Joel Martel, whose field of expertise is really research and evaluation. So we ran focus groups with the students and the teachers during and after the program. We had pre and post questionnaires using the MAAS scale, mindfulness.
Attention awareness scale, yep.
Exactly. So, and we really had positive results. We really wanted to show that this was an effective use of our time as public health nurses because it was really something that was new in our field. We had done a scan of our province, and there really hasn't been other public health units that were offering this program. People were starting to explore, but there was no one offering the program per se. So after doing that for 2 years and having the positive results, we had overwhelming support from our agency to launch it this year as an official program. And we were fortunate enough that last year in 2018, our province put out a new set of public health guidelines, the Ontario Public Health Standards. And mental health is now a requirement within our guidelines in school health. So it's kind of come full circle and it's all come together for us. So we started that actually last week in 10 classrooms locally with 3 of our school boards.
Great. So let's talk about the structure of the program. It's 16 lessons, and what happens in them?
Okay. So yes, the program is about 16 lessons. There's a lot of flexibility to meet teachers' needs and students' needs. So the classes are usually about 30 minutes because we find that's a good length of time for the age group that we work with. We decided to target grades 7 and 8. We have a few grade 6s, which is working well as well. And the reason for that is because we know that at that age, they're going through a tremendous amount of changes, both developmentally, emotionally, socially. And it's also a time where there's still, the opportunity, there's that window of opportunity for them to have positive influences from the adults in their life, such as their teachers, their parents. So we work with grade 7 and 8s. We encourage teachers to really develop a partnership with us, because we only go in once a week, but we provide teachers with tools so that they continue to reinforce what we're doing with students on the days that we're not there. And we really strongly encourage teachers to take the training as well. And the 4 boards that we work with, there is staff that have been trained through Mindful Schools as well. There's different social workers, some of the child and youth workers within the schools, some teachers, some principals. So we're really trying to look at how we can make the program sustainable. So in terms of the lessons themselves, we start with a presentation to the school to tell them what it's all about. Once we get their engagement, we run our sessions once a week. Before the session, we will send an email to the teacher with key messages for the week. In addition to that, we send a parent email so that they can share the information that the students are learning with the parents, and then the parents can then reinforce it at home. We also have a parent manual and a parent letter that goes home, and a classroom teacher manual for the teacher with tips and tricks. And we had the permission from Mindful Schools to adapt and translate into French, because we're offering the program in English and in French. The lessons themselves involve usually about 10 minutes or so of discussion of a concept. We try to do a lot of different activities to make it interactive for the students. So the concepts can be things like getting buy-in, how is it relevant for them? Dealing with strong emotions, some of the positive mind states attached to mindfulness, such as kindness, compassion, empathy, dealing with, thoughts, body scan, all of these different topics. And then we do a practice with the students, and then we follow it up with a bit of journaling. And the teachers like that because they can sometimes continue the journaling, whether it's an English class or a French class, it kind of fits into their curriculum. So that's kind of the structure of our lessons.
Great. So tell us about the successes of the program. What have you seen with this?
Well, we've been really fortunate in the sense that the school boards bought into the program and were engaged right from the get-go. So what we've seen in terms of results with the focus groups that we did and with the questionnaires is that there was a project that the school board was working on to see if the students would improve their results in terms of math and French. And we saw that their academic results improved. So that was very interesting. In terms of what the students were telling us, they were using the tools and the strategies that we were teaching them on their own, either at school or at home, or even when they were playing sports or extracurricular activities. And they were sharing some of what they learned with their families. So it had a bit of a trickle effect. They reported that they were less stressed, had decreased anxiety, were better able to take tests. They were better able to have focus and attention in class. It was easier for them to come back to the task, after recess, after lunch, things like that. Had a calmer classroom environment. And from the teacher's point of view, what was interesting is that a lot of the teachers were incorporating it into their own lifestyles. So for their own personal well-being, one teacher was doing a gratitude practice at the end of the day for herself and at the end of the week with her students for the weekend. So that was nice to see. We even had a principal who was attending all of our sessions who started using it when he was meeting with parents, meeting with students, and he was talking about it to people in the community. Said it helped him with his sleep. So it had really an impact beyond the classroom, which is what we love to see.
Great. And it's so interesting hearing what you say about the students reporting back about how this is touching other aspects of their lives. And that's one of the strong suits, I think, of mindfulness programs overall, is that it's not contained within a particular box, because it's about your life and how you meet with whatever happens. So it's not surprising and a wonderful thing to hear that's influencing not just what happens on the test scores and all, which is of course also helpful and important, but how they're relating to others. That's terrific. So I'm curious, do the teachers and staff, like the principal you mentioned, do they take the same class with the students, or do they have something else going on?
They take the same class with the students, so they're there with us, they're participating. And then what we do is we have something called a teacher card that we leave with them after the class with a simple practice. And we ask them to do that practice with the students on the days that we're not there. We also provide them with a toolkit, so different tangible materials that they can have in the classroom that we've talked about and used throughout the sessions that the students can go to and use during the day if they feel the need. Some examples of those are things like calming bottles, breathing beads, Hoberman spheres, things like that. And there's sessions where we actually have the students make their own materials, and they've told us that they're more likely to use them if they make their own, which is just nice to see. And then there's the training. Some teachers are doing the training as well on their own so that they can continue to do it, the following year when we're not there.
Great. So what are the next steps? What's happening now?
Well, we've had a lot of demand for the program, and currently there are 3 of us that are trained through Mindful Schools. So we're looking at different options. We're working with our school boards. Currently, the school boards are choosing which schools we're going to be working with. And we're looking at exploring the possibility of offering it to more schools for the upcoming school year. Having more people trained, more teachers within the schools, possibly social workers, possibly some more public health nurses. We're really looking at, how can we bring this to the most, to as many classrooms and as many schools as we can.
Susan, I'm curious if there's any advice you might offer to other schools or staff in different locations that are listening to this and might be interested in starting their own programs. What recommendations might you make?
Well, I think with any new program, when you're working with school boards, there's always going to be some challenges, and we've definitely had some challenges along the way. I think one of the most important things is developing a really good relationship with the schools and the school boards that you're going to be working with up front. So if there are schools and school boards that you are already working with, possibly on other projects, it's kind of seeing how you can make the link with what they're already doing, because there's wonderful things that are happening out there. And how does mindfulness fit with that? So, for example, in our province, there's something called the Wellbeing Strategy through our Ministry of Health. So this mindfulness program fits really well with that. So that's a way of getting buy-in and engagement from the schools and the school boards to get something like this going. And also working with champions. So if you have a champion within a school or within a school board, it's getting that person on board and kind of, selling it for you. It's kind of like, planting a small seed, and then those seeds germinate and grow and flourish. And then, it's kind of like a wave. It starts small, takes small steps, but it grows rather quickly, actually. People see the benefits.
So how about the students? What about getting their buy-in? How relevant is that to the program?
Well, it's a big piece, and it's a super important piece, because we know that at that age, grade 7 and 8, age 12, 13, it's very important for them to fit in socially, to look good with their peers. So when, a stranger, like a public health nurse such as us, are coming into the classroom and, talking to them about something that they've, most likely never heard of, or might think is a bit different, it's really important for us to get their buy-in and their engagement. So some ways that we do is by, first of all, developing relationships with the students. We do activities to get to know them, learn their names, try to connect with them on a social level. We also make sure that during the first session we talk about relevance. So how is it important for them? So we'll ask them questions like, have you ever sent a text to a friend and, really regretted after you clicked send? Have you ever lied in bed at night and just can't sleep because the thoughts are just rolling around in your head? Have you ever said something you regretted? Things like that. And then we talk about how mindfulness can help them with that. We ask them if they play sports or if they play instruments or if they have any extracurricular activities. And we talk about, when you train your body or when you train to play an instrument. Well, this is a way of training your mind. And a lot of famous people and famous athletes use mindfulness to train. So they kind of relate to some of that. So that's one way that we get buy-in. We have dealt with resistance, which is very common. You have some students in the classroom who may not want to participate in the practices, who are unsure. And the way that we frame it is that we try to include them as much as possible as volunteers, because a lot of the activities that we do involve interactive activities. So those kids that tend to have a little bit more energy usually love to be volunteers. So we get them to be our volunteers, and we've actually seen the shift where they become more and more engaged. I've had one student actually who at the beginning was just a ball of energy, and as the sessions progressed, he was becoming sort of like my advocate for his peers. He was telling his peers, keep an open mind, try this, it's working for me. And at the end of the program, he came up to me and he said, this has really, really helped me. And I'm going to continue to do it after the program is finished. And are we going to continue to do this next year? So trying to get, peer advocates on your side is a great way to go. And then there's always the idea too that if the students are feeling, not sure about it and it's something different, we talk to them that, we're all in this together, and we call it experiments. It's like doing little experiments. So we have one activity that we do with them where we ask them to clasp their hands together, and we ask them to notice which thumb is on top. And we ask them to notice how that feels. So that feels very normal, very comfortable. And then we ask them to take their hands apart and to put them back together with the opposite thumb on top, and to notice how that feels. And of course, that feels really strange and odd and just not normal. So we ask them to take their hands apart and to do that again, over and over again. And then how does that feel, on the 5th time or on the 10th time that you do that? And it becomes just a little bit easier and just a little bit more normal. So we say that, that's how mindfulness is. You're developing new pathways in your brain, and it's going to get easier and it's going to get more normal with practice. And kids love learning about the brain. They really like to hear about the neuroscience part of it. So we try to integrate that into our lessons. So yeah, those are just some ways that we try to bring them in. And it usually works after a few sessions, and by the end we've got them, engaged. And I mean, I wouldn't say all of them, but it's like planting a seed, right? Some seeds will grow and some seeds won't, but that's okay. I mean, that's all part of the process. So
thank you. Well, for those who are listening to this episode, you can find out more about this program and the work on the website phsd.ca. And of course, I'll be linking that on the episode page for this episode. And also I'll be linking to a story from a news service in Canada about this particular program that features Gisele. Our guest today, Gisele Bourgoin. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you talking with us today.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about something you've heard in today's podcast, please come visit the website at presentmomentmindfulness.com. You'll find an entire webpage devoted to this and every episode. You can comment on the episode page and find show notes and other helpful resources for your mindfulness practice. The shakuhachi music heard on Present Moment is used by permission and through the generosity of musician Rodrigo Rodriguez. His website is linked on the Present Moment website on the About Podcast Music page. Sound editing, mixing, and mastering provided by the generosity of Anthony Dominello of StructureFromSound.com. Until next time, remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time on Present Moment.